Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Just want them to know we appreciate them and hang in there, and we'll do our best to support them.
The new chairman of the House Agriculture Committee talks about what Congress has in store for cattle producers this year. Also, details about a major change in prices for calves and feeder cattle. Plus, a day in the life of a young woman starting her career in the cattle industry.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Susie Ross. Ranchers across the nation are watching with concern as calf and feeder cattle prices continue to drop. Prices have been on the decline since September. The price drop is linked to the rise in grain prices, but here's the big question on the minds of cattlemen. Can we reverse this trend anytime soon? We have more on today's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
Joining us is Dwayne Lenz of Cattle Facts. Welcome, Dwayne.
Thanks, appreciate being here.
Well, it's good to have you here. There's been a nice bounce recently in fed cattle prices and some record highs in live cattle futures. What's behind that?
Well, you're right. Since late January, these prices have all moved higher. You mentioned the futures market already. Funds are coming in, buying this futures market, making the board go higher. And I think a lot of the future market participants also like the fact that the beef and the fed cattle is going higher. They stay with their long positions. The board continues to go higher. Cattle sellers have been extremely tough salesmen here lately. They're losing some money. They want all they can out of these cattle. They're pricing the cattle higher, willing to wait for Friday. At that point, the packers are forced to come to them, pay the up money, and go on down the road. Beef consumption is lower. It's been a long, tough winter through a lot of feed yard country. Carcass weights are going down, live cattle weights are going down, so beef production is being reduced. Also, packer margins have been slim, so they reduced the slaughter on the beef side. There's just not as much beef out there. They price it higher, and by the end of the week, they've been able to get sharply higher prices for the beef.
Okay. The past few months have been pretty rough on calf and feeder cattle producers. Is this something that's going to help them too?
You bet, it already has. You know, there's always a direct relationship between fed and feeder cattle prices. Feeder cattle prices are up about $3 to $4 a hundredweight. There's not a lot of cattle moving right now. Placements into yards have been quite slim. They're out there trying to beat the market before it gets a little bit better, and the market has improved. Calf prices haven't advanced as well, and of course that money goes straight to calf producers. In a lot of these areas, calf prices are up $5 a hundredweight, and in areas like the South Plains as much as $10 a hundredweight. Wow. And you know, it's hard to think about it in a cold winter evening or cold winter day that grass is on the way. But it's starting to green up in spots, and folks want to gather these calves, turn them out onto green grass when it comes here over the next couple of months. The competition for these calves is fierce.
Okay, well, guys, you heard it here. You need to get out there and get them before the prices go higher. Thanks, Dwayne. It's a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
For more information from Cattle Facts and about the organization, head to cattle-facts.com. In cattle industry news this week, anti-agriculture groups are claiming manure on farms and ranches is a hazardous substance. The groups say it should be regulated under Superfund laws. NCBA is urging Congress to exempt manure from Superfund regulation. NCBA says that's because it was never the intent of Congress to treat manure as a hazardous material. House and Senate committees are reacting to Farm Bill proposals outlined by the Bush administration earlier this month. Hearings on Capitol Hill suggest there are differences in farm policy between the administration and the new congressional leadership. Capitol Hill is also buzzing over how to implement mandatory country of origin labeling. Efforts are underway in Congress to move the effective date up to this year, but many are concerned the law could place an additional cost burden on cattle producers and offer little benefit to consumers. And Colorado livestock groups hope to raise $500,000 to help farmers and ranchers devastated by recent winter storms. Operation Blizzard Benefit features a March 18th benefit concert with country star Michael Martin Murphey in Pueblo, Colorado. For more information on how you can help, go to our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. Minerals are a key ingredient for your cattle's performance. It's important for you to make sure your cattle are receiving the minerals they need to meet their energy, reproduction, and health needs. Cattlemen to Cattlemen's Todd McCartney recently traveled to St. Louis and the Longview Animal Nutrition Center to learn more from Purina Mills experts.
Minerals are a vital part of cattle nutrition. Now that's no surprise, and consequently most producers add mineral products to their herd's diet. However, some may be surprised to find out that there's a big difference between a salt program and a complete mineral program. Fortunately, we've got two experts with us today to help sort things out. Why supplement with a variety of minerals rather than just salt?
Minerals are one of the basic building blocks of nutrition. Protein, energy, vitamins, minerals, and water are all needed for a complete nutrition program. With minerals, we're basically looking at three things. We're trying to maximize reproduction, increase feed efficiency, and maximize herd health. We know that herds that are on a good mineral program excel in all three of these areas. Minerals are important with reproduction in that cows that have a good mineral program have a better conception rate and a shorter breeding season, which means we have a larger, more uniform calf crop to sell at the end of the weaning season for a cow-calf producer. Feed efficiency is important in that with a good mineral program, we can have cows that hold body condition better because minerals are important in the whole energy metabolism system of the cow. We've got data from Texas A&M, the ranch to rail studies, that show that calves from herds on a complete mineral program have lower feedlot pulls and less health costs throughout the feeding period.
Well, we can't deny the fact that forages, which make up the basis of the cow's diet, they supply a good bit of minerals as well.
Forages will only supply 70 to 80% of the mineral needs by the animal. In order for it to reach the optimal performance by the cow herd, we got to supply that remaining deficiency to supplemental sources.
Okay.
So the challenge is when you look at minerals and the forages that are out there, many times we'll get a report from a lab that says this forage base has this much calcium, this much phosphorus, this much copper, and things like that. We have to recognize that even though there's a number on that lab report, all that mineral may not be available to the animal.
Sure.
Because many times as that forage goes through different stages of production, that mineral is tied up by the forage components. By the time the rancher comes in and sees a deficiency, his herd has already gone through decreased health, like Ted talked about, decreased reproduction, decreased growth. But when the rancher really does see all those, it's too late. And we ultimately will get to the point that we have to come in and have other types of mineral supplementation to get what we need.
We mentioned salt, obviously. Are there key minerals? I mean, we have our macro and our micro. Which minerals do we identify as being critical?
The short answer is all of the minerals are important. We tend to concentrate on 14 different minerals, 7 macro minerals, calcium, phosphorus, the minerals that are needed in large amounts, and 7 micro minerals, zinc, copper, iodine, selenium, that are needed in very trace amounts, if you will, in the animal's diet. The trace minerals are a little trickier to get a handle on in a cow herd because you don't see the big items like milk fever, grass tetany, things like that. Trace elements are very important for immune status and reproduction, so therefore instead, if we're low on trace elements, what we see is open cows for longer. Instead of that cow breeding back in 60 days, now she's breeding back 90, 120, which is going to decrease our calf weight at the end. So what we want to do is we want to have a good balanced mineral program and supply everything the cow needs in the proper ratios so she can maximize her performance.
But the question is, how do I build that program? How do I put that program together for my operation?
So once we understand what minerals we're short in and the levels, then I will go in and I will select high quality ingredients that I know the cattle will consume, that the minerals are available to the animal. Once the animal consumes it, they got to absorb it into their system to be able to be used in their bodily functions. And also I'm looking for high quality ingredients that has type of weatherability, especially being able to hold up together in wind and rain. So when we start talking about weatherability and the ability to shed water and resist wind, we'll start looking at the larger particle type ingredients that have high bioavailability, and at the same time we can look at some different technologies that we can apply to these ingredients that will allow them to shed water. Because I don't think there's very few things more that the cattleman doesn't like is putting a quality mineral out in the feeder, getting a rainstorm, gets wet, dries out, sets up like concrete, and he throws it away. That's just money wasted. So we want to make sure we get a good quality mineral that will shed water and have some weather resistance to it.
Consistent, predictable intake then opens the door for fly control products.
We can use our mineral program to feed a product such as Alticid and get really effective fly control in that herd for very little additional labor required. So that's another good use for your mineral program once you have a good balanced mineral program that the cows have consistent, predictable intake.
Then what I'm hearing is the bottom line is very often forages lack not only the quality but the quantity of the minerals that our cow herd needs to provide to their optimum level.
That's correct.
Okay, and we may get by with just salt, but they're not going to perform as well relative to herd health,
reproduction, overall feed efficiency, and a whole lot of other things that we just can't measure day to day on the ranch.
Okay.
But the key is the cattle have got to eat the right amount of mineral on a consistent basis.
Makes good sense. I appreciate it, gentlemen.
To make sure your herd is receiving proper mineral nutrition, contact your feed representative or your local extension agent. Ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, how cattle industry policy makes its way through Capitol Hill. Also, we'll hear from newly appointed House Agriculture Chairman Colin Peterson. Plus, we'll head to the desert Southwest to see how a young cattlewoman is making her way in the industry. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by CattleFax.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
Calving season brings an air of excitement, but silent threats like trichomoniasis, Vibrio, and Lepto may rob you of your valuable calf crop. That's why there's TrickGuard and TrickGuard V5L from Fort Dodge Animal Health. Reproductive challenges met with the proven performance and convenience of TrickGuard vaccines. Fort Dodge focuses on ensuring the next generation of quality cattle, so you can focus on the next generation of cattle producers.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Cattlemen's Capital Concerns, brought to you by Fort Dodge Animal Health, makers of Cydectin Poron and Triangle Vaccines.
Welcome back to Cattlemen. There's a whole new dynamic on Capitol Hill these days. It's because of the recent change in leadership on congressional committees. The House Agriculture Committee is of great importance to cattle producers, as these members of Congress work directly on issues that hit home. We caught up with the head of the House Ag Committee, Chairman Colin Peterson, in his office on Capitol Hill.
Just about every group in America has lobbyists and trade associations and brings their people up to the Hill. So to some extent, you almost have to do this to stay even with everybody else. It helps us. The more they can, visit those folks and explain to them what's important in ranching and in rural America and in the cattle business, it makes my job easier.
For cattlemen, having a say on how Congress writes the 2007 Farm Bill will be one of the biggest priorities.
I think a big focus in this Farm Bill is going to be moving to cellulosic ethanol. And the quicker we get that done, the more pressure you're going to take off of corn, these other commodities. But conservation will be competing with renewable fuels, research on cellulosic, and those kinds of things. So until we see the numbers, we're not going to know exactly whether we're going to have money to catch up these programs or not. But moving forward, the conservation that I'm most interested in are the programs where you have a specific purpose, like equip.
Peterson says efforts to regulate manure and the Superfund laws will be a tough fight for cattlemen this year.
To be honest with you, it's probably going to be an uphill battle, but it's something that should happen. I don't think anybody in our part of the world ever thought manure was going to be a hazardous waste.
The congressman, who grew up feeding cattle in Baker, Minnesota, understands how challenging it can be making a living off the land.
Well, there's a lot of us that understand what they go through and know how tough it is, and we just want them to know we appreciate them and hang in there, and we'll do our best to support them.
As Chairman Peterson mentioned, members of Congress say the best way to be heard on Capitol Hill is to be there in person. NCBA's Washington, D.C. office is just blocks from Congress, and each week staff members are hard at work at the Capitol, working for the interests of America's cattlemen.
It's extremely important to have a presence here because, as Chairman Peterson, the incoming House Agriculture Committee Chairman, said, everybody else has a presence here. So if we don't, we're going to get left behind. It's extremely important to have a voice in Washington, D.C. that's vocal, that can go out and advocate for America's cattle producers, because our members are busy. They're up before dawn and they're out well past dark, and they just don't have the time to be able to advocate on behalf of themselves and work with their congressmen and producers. So it's our job to be able to come in and do that for them.
NCBA's Washington, D.C. staff says anti-beef environmental activists who lobby against cattlemen and claim ranching is detrimental to the environment could actually gain footing in this new Congress.
There are a lot of environmentalists who would prefer the cattle just be off the land. There are some groups we can work with that understand that good managed grazing and good stewardship is beneficial for the environment. It doesn't degrade the water or the land. So a lot of our job is educating people and finding people we can work with. But there are groups who would prefer cattle just not be on the land, and we have to fight to combat those groups.
And times are changing. Today's congressional districts are representing a more urban and suburban population.
I think the important thing to realize is when you look at Congress as a whole, agricultural and rural areas represent a smaller and smaller portion of the U.S. And so it's extremely important the role that we play here on Capitol Hill in providing information more than anything to those members who don't have an inherent knowledge of what agriculture really does for America.
With a new Congress in session, it's prime time for cattle producers to try and take a short break from their operation and get their voice heard in Washington, D.C.
The biggest thing I can say is get involved, know what the issues are, call your member of Congress, email your member of Congress, let them know how the actions that they're taking here in Washington, D.C. affect you.
This is Jim Witt with NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
NCBA's Washington, D.C. staff says the government needs to hear from cattle producers in person. The good news is the annual NCBA Spring Conference in Washington, D.C. is just 1 month away. For details on how to get there, check out our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. You could say that cattle ranching runs in the Grosetta family.
I just attended meetings with my mom and dad and enjoyed the people that were there and really made my heart big for the cattle industry.
Ahead on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a day in the life of Anna Grosetta as she learns the industry ropes. We'll be right back.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
There ain't no bugs on me. There ain't no bugs on me. There may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
Canine Advantix is the one that repels and kills disease-spreading fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. Frontline Plus doesn't repel and isn't effective against mosquitoes. So ask your veterinarian for Canine Advantix, the one that repels and kills.
Yeah, there may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
Welcome back. In the desert of Arizona, a young woman named Anna Grosetta is making her way into the cattle industry with a little help from her dad. Here's Anna's story in her own words.
Hi, my name is Anna Grosetta. I'm from Cottonwood, Arizona. I'm a senior at the University of Arizona in agriculture economics, and I'm here in Cottonwood today at my family's ranch, where I'm a fourth generation rancher, and I'm happy to show you around. We run between 300 and 400 head of mother cows, and we run on about 40 sections of 75% of it being federal lands, that'd be Forest Service, and the remaining 25% are private and state leased lands. It's been in my family since my great-grandfather, and behind me you can see our oldest barn. My great-grandfather built this barn out of Arizona cypress trees. He hauled the logs here by wagon from 20 miles away and built it in 1936. So Dad, what do you remember about me on the ranch?
Well, I had a lot of great memories of you and your older brother and sister. I know during fall roundup, you always wanted to go, even when you were real small, to go with Paul and Katie, your older brother and sister, out and start with us on fall roundup.
My first involvement in the cattle industry started when I was a little girl, and I loved to attend our state cattlemen's meetings because I looked at them as more of a vacation. And I started out in our Arizona Junior Livestock Association, and I really enjoyed being around other kids who had backgrounds that were similar to mine. I just attended meetings with my mom and dad and enjoyed the people that were there, and really made my heart big for the cattle industry. Then I had a great opportunity to be the Arizona Beef Ambassador. And with that great opportunity with the National Beef Ambassador Program, I was able to secure an internship with the USDA in Washington, D.C.
I think you have a fantastic future, and any young person who's interested in the cattle industry today has a very promising future in our business. Being in the cattle business for several generations, it's very important that we have young people get involved and engaged in the cattle industry.
I want to stay in the beef industry because it's what I love. I grew up with, I think, the most wonderful people there is in the world, and they're caring and they're kind and they're generous, and I just want to help them continue with the livelihood that they've had and what I've grown up with. I want other people to be able to participate in that.
Thank you, Anna. What a great story. Ahead, we'll take a look at some other great stories from around the country in this week's Legacy Photos. We'll be right back.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen, a television show by cattlemen for cattlemen.
You know, we're having so much fun looking through the pictures viewers are sending into our Legacy Photos program. Let's check out this week's selection. Send us pictures of your family and operation. Head to our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. Next week, we'll take an in-depth look at the 2007 Farm Bill. Also, details about how the National Cattlemen's Foundation is helping farmers and ranchers with disaster relief efforts. Plus, a day in the life of the man some call the father of the modern-day feedlot. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on RFD TV.